Before the most successful code of the 20th century was introduced, American encrypted codes were inefficient and easily decipherable by Japanese cryptographers. The Navajo Code Talkers, an elite force of radio operators who created an unbreakable code during World War II, were influential in the war effort. This covert operation was kept from the public for over 20 years, arguably one of the best kept secrets in military history at the time.
However, this lack of recognition and the secrecy of the mission resulted in them withholding their war experiences, preventing them from expressing their feelings and trauma as they developed PTSD. The return from World War II for American soldiers, specifically indigenous people like Native Americans, was accompanied by PTSD and changed their meaning of the American dream, and by extension, their American identity.
PTSD was prevalent among many indigenous American soldiers returning from war, which can be triggered by the traumatic memories of gruesome experiences. Throughout history, Native Americans have served in the U.S. military in every major conflict for over 200 years. From the battlefields of the Revolutionary War to the beaches of Normandy on D-Day to the front lines of today, American Indians have defended the United States for centuries. For Native Americans, being American means to protect and serve the country which has been their home since it was colonized.
During World War II, the Navajo Code Talkers suffered and witnessed horrifying events that led many of them to develop PTSD, drastically shifting their life and perspective of the American dream after returning home. In Code Talkers by Judith Scheiss Avila and Chester Nez, Chester's experience with war symptoms was rooted from the Japanese enemy who populated his dreams, continuing to torment him even when he was awake. The invasions of hostile islands played like an endless film in his head.
These post-war memories would be Chester's first experience of PTSD, as it affected many different indigenous people involved in the war, scarring their minds with traumatic memories. The lack of support that these struggling veterans felt when they returned home from the war reflected their view of the American dream, as many found that they struggled to find work and maintain healthy relationships, negatively impacting their American identity. Overall, the contributions of the Native Americans to the history of the United States military has resulted in post-traumatic stress disorder for many soldiers with similar experiences as Chester Nez.
PTSD does not only affect the people who are returning from war, but also the people around them. To American soldiers who were shunned after risking their lives, their perception of the American identity must have been shattered by the sharp words they faced, like the civil servant who told Chester he was not a full citizen of the United States. Judith Scheiss Avila and Chester Nez in the Code Talkers described one of the times Chester experienced racism when he was trying to obtain an identification card, and the teller gave him trouble because of his Navajo background.
The public treatment Chester received after running through traumatizing battlefields with the invaluable knowledge of a code talker was despicable. This is prevalent in the present due to public misconception of what it means to be a soldier and the toll it can take on people's minds. On a social level, the soldiers who developed PTSD struggled in silence due to their disorder. So people in Chester Nez's family came to heal him, but many others, even people his family didn't know, heard about him and came to lend support and help Chester re-enter the good life.
This aid from Chester's family and the people around him was significant to help him overcome mental challenges from World War II. People without the assistance of others succumbed to the symptoms of PTSD, being alone and isolated from their American dream. All things considered, Native American veterans were severely affected by wartime PTSD, and it can be especially difficult for them and their families to go back to civilian life.
In recent years, PTSD has increased among war veterans since the Vietnam War because of increased awareness of the condition. The most recent official war fought by U.S. troops was the war in Afghanistan, where troops were removed in 2021. Cheryl Honey Dupree is a Native American Iraq and Afghanistan war veteran who developed PTSD after she returned from deployment in Afghanistan. The things she witnessed were human rights violations, such as the rape of young boys by Afghan soldiers.
The effect of that experience, as well as many other traumatic events, rendered her to have the mindset of a soldier in her day-to-day life. This PTSD caused her to struggle with citizen life after returning back home, as separating the traumatic war mindset from her personal life was incredibly difficult without external help. Similar to Navajo soldiers like Chester Nez who fought in World War II, Cheryl Dupree would also transition into a different person. She learned to control the anger utilizing Chinese and Native American traditional healing methods.
Even though mental illnesses torment many soldiers who return from war, the people are able to express their traditions and cultures within America, allowing them to tranquilize their symptoms. These types of traditions within the broader American culture allow people to maintain the peace they might experience when surrounded by their family. In the cases of Chester and Honey, PTSD was a troubling mental condition that was greatly alleviated with the help of culture and external support systems.
For Indigenous Americans returning from war, their meaning of the American dream and identity was altered significantly due to the development of PTSD from the trauma of battle. For the Code Talkers returning from World War II, PTSD and a lack of recognition were their only greetings. Their contribution to the country through covert communication in the Navajo language went purposefully unnoticed because it was believed that the code could be useful later in conflicts.
Torturous experiences of these Navajo soldiers went completely unrecognized for years until their hardships and war-altering achievements were validated long after the war. Recently, Native Americans have served in the U.S. military in countries like Iraq and Afghanistan, the locations where many war-related mental issues stem from for veterans.
Soldiers like Cheryl Dubris still think of themselves as on a mission in their civilian life, making it difficult to heal symptoms of PTSD. Ultimately, post-traumatic stress disorder experienced by Navajo American soldiers shifted their views of the American dream and their perception of American identity.